you a rock star?
I don't know. Well, you know what I would say I went into music management after I was in bands, and in hindsight, we were absolutely rock stars because it was the type of experience where you didn't have anything to compare it to. So we were just taking every day as it comes. But I think the biggest audience we played in front of was 11,000, which was a spiritual experience. We toured, we had 2 female front people. So, and people kind of said something like, oh, well, we're kind of, like a 90s Fleetwood Mac. And then when Mick Fleetwood became a fan and came to some shows, that was amazing. And, and we shared rehearsal space with Stone Temple Pilots before they were called that. And so we had a lot of rock star moments, actually. We were traveling around in a 15-passenger van. It was all original music, and we just had a friggin' blast. So that's the long answer. The awesome. Short answer is yes. Rock star.
That's right. Yes.
You're listening to The Other 50%, a history of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where I talk to successful women in entertainment and hear their stories. For this episode, I got to meet Jennifer Aurianne DaRe. She's the founder and CEO of ATN Entertainment, a premier talent management company in Los Angeles that specializes in the representation of artists in entertainment from film, television, music, literature, and more. Since founding ATN in 2015, she has grown the roster to over 100 clients under her leadership, including a strong presence of women and the LGBTQ community. Now in her 5th year of running the company, Jennifer's tenure has resulted in tremendous success with previously unknown clients achieving much acclaim. Her accomplishments led to the launch of the production and development division of the company, ATN Productions. The debut project for the banner will be a TV adaptation of the YouTube comedy series Panic, which is slated for release in 2021. Prior to the founding of ATN Entertainment, Jennifer was an executive vice president at a then reputable management company that she transitioned to from her time as an independent music manager for bands, record producers, and solo artists. Her music connections developed as the singer and manager of the successful folk rock band The Extinct. For 12 years, The Extinct shared stages with artists such as Stone Temple Pilots, No Doubt, Incubus, Maroon 5, Alien Ant Farm, as well as many other successful acts of the 90s. Like I said, rock star. She was also the sole producer and curator of the ATN Showcase from 2005 to 2013 that featured musical artists from all over the globe at the South by Southwest Music Festival. It was the largest and longest running independent showcase in South by Southwest history at the time. Jennifer's experience, expertise, and work ethic make her one of the most respected and sought-after talent managers in the business. And after hearing this, you will know why. You can find us at theother50%.com for added features, photos, show notes, and the merchandise. You can listen on Apple Podcasts and all the podcast places. Okay, here's my conversation with Jennifer DaRe. Keep in mind, this was recorded the last week of September, so we recorded remotely, and any references to recent times may be outdated. And if we referred to the upcoming election, obviously it hadn't happened yet, so that is the context. Here, have a listen.
So now we've kind of started in the middle of this podcast. So then here's how I usually start, is just to ask you in your own words. What is it that you're doing now?
Okay, so now I am running my own talent management company and all that entails. So I started ATN, which stands for All Together Now, Entertainment back in early 2016. So we've just been growing our roster, honing in on the things that we really want to concentrate on. I have some amazing clients that have started from what would be generally considered the bottom, and now they're on series and doing really well and traveling all over the place. One of my clients, Karen Obolum, is leaving for East Africa to be on a feature film that it's an Alicia Keys project. It's untitled. She's executive producing, and they're going to be in East Africa for 9 weeks filming at a resort kind of beautiful place that's amazing. And Karen she's a series regular on a BET show called Games People Play. And she also did 7 episodes of the season 2 of Doom Patrol. So she's just killing the game, and she's an amazing person. I'm so happy for her and with her. And yeah, she's just a badass. So
amazing.
Yeah.
How did you get into talent management?
Well, starting out, as we've already established, as a rock star myself. So I was in bands for probably close to 12 years. And towards the last couple years of being in bands, I started managing other bands and helping out, and it came from a place of just like, oh, I've experienced some of this stuff that you're dealing with right now. So I have some advice or some suggestions. And then it actually became my job. I once I was kind of done with the being in the band thing, I started just managing. So I had bands that I was managing, record producers. I also, in 2005, I started showcasing bands at South by Southwest. So I did that for 9 years in a row and really built that out, which was just, it was a labor of love. I loved every second of it. I never made a penny, but it didn't matter because it was such a great experience. But so once I started managing, then I was kind of out of the me being the artist thing, and I'm more about helping artists do what they want to do. So in early 2008, I had a really good friend of mine who was an actor, and he'd been bringing up to me like, oh, you should manage actors. You should manage actors. And I never really considered it until early 2008, where I just felt like the music side had run its course. I started in the music side when you could get $1 zillion advance and music videos would be $250,000. And towards the end, I had a record producer where he would have made an ungodly amount of money to produce a record. And then we were getting offered like, hey, how about $7,000 for a full record? And I was just like, okay, this is... Yeah. It was indie level, like bands just starting and this is all we can afford. But I was just like, I don't, it had run its course from my perspective. So then I started managing my friend. I had one actor and I was learning about the website that we're on now that has all the castings. And so it was that process. I was just like, okay, I'll try this. And within a little bit of time, I had 11 actor clients. I had to learn about that whole thing because as an indie band manager, I'm about to swear, which I think is fine. But as an indie band manager, nobody gave a shit about me at all. Like I would bring that up like, oh, what do you, someone asked me what I did. And I was like, oh, I manage bands. And they're like, oh, that's a job. I'm like, oh, cool. Yes, it's his job. That's what I'm basing my whole life on. Glad. Yes, it is a job. So
it's what you like carry the drums in.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of the perspective and the perception of being an indie band manager. And once I started managing actors, I learned very quickly that out, especially living in Los Angeles, I don't tell people what I do for the most part, because I remember, this is a great example of why I don't do that. So early on, I went to a birthday party of one of my clients, and a lot of the friends that were there were from her acting class. And she had told them that her manager was coming, and they actually had like resumes and headshots in their purses or brought with them to hand to me at a birthday party. And then I was like, okay, cool. So I'm just a friend of people. I'm not but it was really an adjustment. It was like night and day. Cause like before no one cared and now everyone cared. So I make sure to keep it close to I'm not promoting that out there in the world, but but that was basically like that was the transition. I knew that I always wanted to work with artists. I knew that I always wanted to help them do what they needed to do. That goes back to, I was a personal assistant to quite a few kind of A-lister type actors. I would travel around with them and be 10 steps ahead and make sure everything was perfect and all that stuff. And so almost every job that I've had has had something to do with facilitating another person getting their shit done. So now I'm really doing it, and I wouldn't want to do anything else. Like it's hard. Like sometimes people say, oh, I'm blessed because I wake up every day and I love what I do. But it's like, I worked my tail off and now I am blessed truly, but holy crap, so when I wake up in the morning, it's true. Like, I'm so excited about every single thing, even the most menial, like, schedule the thing, because it's all in the direction of helping artists communicate to the world, do what they want to do, and be successful. So,
well, it sounds like it was a natural progression. Can you tell me, what is the day in the life of a talent manager?
Well, let's see. I mean, it's definitely different every day, depending on what's going on. Like this morning, I can tell you, woke up, did my exercises, got some coffee, and started hitting my emails. And because my client's leaving tomorrow to fly internationally and all of that stuff, I had a ton of emails that I needed to go through, coordinate with her so she knew what was happening. Right before this, I was on a call with a couple creators about a potential docuseries that they're interested in getting made and seeing if there was some symmetry and some way that I could help them get that done. One of my clients is... so funny. One of my clients, he's kind of like a younger Jason Momoa. His name is Sia Zami. Mm-hmm. And he recently is the principal in the most recent Lady Gaga video. So that whole aspect of life is totally blowing up, and something that I mean, I knew it was coming, but it's been just a whirlwind. He's getting interview requests, and we're able to, get the word out there about him as an actor and all the stuff that he's doing. So that was something that I was delving into this morning, just making sure that his social media was the way it's supposed to be, blah, blah, blah. And I coordinated with a recently hired publicist for ATN because we have a press release going out announcing our first project that we are producing as ATN Productions. So the production side so I'm a producer on it. One of my clients is a producer on it, a guy named Sam Ingrafia, who an actor, writer, veteran. He's been in the business for a good long while, and he's amazing. And he brought this project to me. So and the creators are these two kids who are just wonderful. They met in art school, and a guy named Chris Cox and Keaton Applebaum, and they're working together to create this. It's a web series they already created, but we're taking it, we're blowing it up. The job is to get it made for a TV show. So, that press release is literally going out today, which is really exciting. It kind of checked all the boxes for me, like really great people, great message. It's all about anxiety, but it's framed in a comedy. It's a comedy, but it goes dark where it needs to. And it's very educational, very enlightened view of that whole subject. So I was working on, I finalized the press release over the last couple of days, coordinating with a publicist on that today. So that's just literally today as an example, but right now we have 94 clients. And so the actor pursuit is its own monster. So I have people at the company who are helping me as far as submitting everyone, and we're all pitching on roles that are coming out, and Breakdowns, which is the site where all the magic happens. We get all the roles posted and we submit there. Been pretty dismal, obviously, based on where the world is at right now since March, but it's starting to come back and getting more and more exciting, and people are shooting things. And I have a client right now in New Mexico on a 3-week shoot. So coordinating with him on anything and everything he needs. Let's see. I'm reading a lot of scripts right now. There's just a lot, especially because we're launching into the production side. So there's a lot of content that I need to be, I need to catch up on and be on top of. A lot of my clients have a lot of incredible things going on right now. So I'm needing to know about all of it and be steps ahead. And so that's a day in the life, I guess. And it's only,
Oh my God. Was it noon?
Yeah, I know. I was just going to say, yeah.
So tell me this, can you make this distinction for people in the audience who may not have clarity on this, the difference between the job of a manager and the job of an agent, say if you're an actor?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of blurred lines. I'll just start with that because there are some managers who do more crossover into agenting and managing at the same time and the other direction. But if you were to make it just black and white, agents are responsible for procuring work for the client. So auditions, bookings, yeah, exactly. Close the job, negotiate the job, all of that, close it. So, and then the way that I look at it, and again, this isn't taking anything away from agents because agents also do a lot more than that in some cases. But the manager is then responsible for everything else. And that's what we're responsible for. That's the way I look at it. Whether it's finding that agent for if I get a client and they don't have any representation other than me, we make sure that they have the right headshots. We make sure that they have the footage that will communicate very well what they're capable of, what they can do. Make sure they're up on all the sites, make sure that they're in an acting class, make sure that, they're meeting casting directors in any way that they can. And then it goes into a lot more than that too. I mean, I have clients that I'm communicating with pretty often about just how their life is going, making sure that they're in the right headspace to be able to do the job that they want to do and that we need them to do. And when it comes to someone like I spoke on before, Karen, because there's a lot going on, there's just a lot of coordination. So I keep her agents posted on all the stuff about she's flying out, she has everything she needs, this is where she's staying, all that coordination is something that I field for Karen, and then keep her agents posted on that as I find out. So yeah, so that's basically.
So would it be accurate to say that you are helping to shape the career, whereas an agent may be working on a job?
Yeah, I mean, that's generally true. But as an example, there's a lot of coordination between me and the agent to shape the career. And we rarely enter into a relationship with an agent where the plan isn't that those are our people, we're going to progress with them and shape the career together, and there are different levels of agents too. I mean,
you're on the team.
Yeah, exactly. So when I first started managing, I didn't have the perspective necessarily that, okay, well, we're married now, with a client. This is it. We're together. We're doing this whole thing together, because I hadn't enough experience to know that was what this was. But it really is. And so now, just I'm sure a lot of people know, as you go through, you keep setting the bar. You set the bar at a certain place, you move the bar up. And so now I have my meeting down, and I usually know within the first 5-10 minutes whether it's going to be a client that is going to resonate with me and that I will be the right person for that person. And all of those things come faster now.
So what do you look for if you're going to take someone on?
I got to say, I have to just love the shit out of them. Truly. I mean, they have to have they have to have the goods. They have to be able to act, and they have to be able to be present. And there are perspectives that are important to me that you're never going to arrive. It's never okay, I got all my craft down. Now I'm ready to, it's a constant pursuit.
Done.
Yeah, exactly. Made it. So that has a lot to do with it. And the other thing that I actually learned the lesson from the managing bands and musicians side is that I have to stand behind what they stand for, because all of my work goes into, I work my butt off to get more people to hear and listen to what they have to say. So I am therefore, in a way, also responsible for what they have to say. So, and it's not a qualifier that everyone is going to save the world, save the planet, save the whales, whatever it is, but they have to be.
Although we would certainly appreciate it if they would.
Exactly. So, but it's definitely a neutral and above situation. Yeah. And again, I kind of learned the hard way a little bit on the musician side that was, I didn't want to be working my butt off to get someone in a position where people listen and then I'm not behind what they have to say. And the other thing is, there's so many different managers, there's so many different people out there that they don't have that qualification, or they don't necessarily, they're just about, okay, this is a business, let's get the business done. You're an actor, let's get, and I appreciate that too. It's just for me, because this is my life. I'm not stopping into this and so that I can get somewhere else. This is it for me. So yeah, I really just need to, we need to resonate with each other. I need to understand who they are and what they're doing and why they want this. And I know a lot of people in our business, they work their butts off, and I do too. And I want that to, I want to feel like it's worth it every moment with whomever I'm working with. So that's the big thing. They need to work hard. This is one of the toughest things I've ever done. And I feel like I've done some pretty tough things in my life so far. So we just have to be on the same page. And so that's it. I have to love them. They need to know what they're doing and be in it for the right reasons. That's pretty much
If you were talking to an actor who is just starting out, what would you want them to kind of have in their toolbox or have done before they get to someone like you?
I mean, they need to have been in class for a while and currently be in class and have the right understanding of the importance of that. And this is, okay, so this is very specifically for me. Sometimes I'll get an email from a new, someone who wants to have a meeting with me or something, and they rattle off all the actors that they are like, and which is good. I mean, there needs to be an understanding of where you kind of fit in to the big picture of this. But on my side of things, I like to decide or determine that in the meeting, like who they are, where they're at. And I usually don't have like a certain thing, like you have to know all of this stuff about yourself before we start working together. But the people that I want to work with are ones that they have a good understanding of this business. There is something to be said for the fact that I have conversations with actors all the time where like, oh, I just need to be in the room. I need to get in the room and then I will book like a monster. But the reality is most actors think that about themselves. And there's so much more that goes into getting someone in the room. So there's a deeper understanding, and as much as actors can get a grasp on how this business works, then we can have a conversation where we're on the same page, more on the same page. I never stomp on anyone's dreams, but I definitely have the job of making sure that they understand the rules of this game that we're playing. So if someone comes in and they're just like, oh, I'm going to be huge in a month and, it's going to be the best, that gives me pause only for the reason that they're not operating within the reality of what this business is like. So it's, getting as much of an understanding of how this whole thing works so that we can be talking about the same subject when we're talking is a big thing for me.
So when you say it takes so much more than you realize to even get into the room, can you give us an idea of kind of what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have to say, obviously, my job in this is the business side. My job is not solely about how incredible the art part is that I'm being, that's available to me in a person in front of me. So while that part is extremely important, as an example, if I look at a resume and it has a lot of really great training, right? Oh, this person, that person, I've studied with these guys and I'm really rocking in that department, but they have nothing on their resume as far as something that they've booked that's recognizable to a casting director. It's not just a shoe-in. Like the business part of this is casting, looking at a resume and going, oh, cool. I recognize that show. That's great. And it's within the last year, at least. That's good. Because for casting, when they see that, they know, okay, this person went up against a bunch of other people. They were chosen. They showed up. They were on set and they did their job. It's no casting director is ever going to go like, oh, there's a co-star with that show that I know, and maybe they said a couple lines. Hey, assistant to me, go find that footage immediately so I can see how they delivered those 2 lines. Like that's not the point of that. So it's really about the building of the resume. And that's something that you have to have. There are these amazing stories where like, oh, I got off the bus and I went and met this guy, talked to me at coffee and it was amazing. And next thing I know, I'm a huge star. Cool. That, that's the thing. I remember even
that happens. Right?
Yeah. But even in the times when I was managing bands, like I had one band that I was working with for a good long while. And they were like, oh, this band opened one night in Vegas for this other band. And now they've taken off. I'm like, cool. You want to base your whole thing on that? Because that happens 1 in a million. So it's like you hear all these grand stories.
That is luck.
Yeah, exactly. You hear all these grand stories and those rise to the top and people start thinking that that's how things are. But, and it's not, I love what I do and I love what I get to do. And this is an exciting business and it's a wonderful thing to be a part of. But, the more time I have to spend explaining that the fact that you're a great actor is the foundation. And then there's everything above that. So it's like, oh, if they just saw me. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Of course, that's the job, getting them to see you. Like I'm with it, that's the job. So it's about building that resume. It's about potentially doing one line on a show that you're not excited about. That's it. Go in there, meet people, be awesome, do the best you can be. And then we put that on the resume. And with that, we build onto something maybe a little bit bigger. Everyone is going to have to start with bartender number 6. It's just the way it is, and then you build into oh, now I'm called Mark. I have 2 lines. Great. But it's like, it's a building. I mean, it's really a building process. And that doesn't mean that you might not book a guest star or a bigger role right out the gate. Of course, that can happen. But it's the craft part, and being amazing is it's what you start with. That's step 1. So so that's something that is really important. It's just the truth. So it's nothing to fight. It's part of what this whole job is. So
now, are you also working with writers?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Okay.
And how are you guys doing in the time of COVID?
Okay. Well, I have to say, in the time of COVID, it has been, it far, like my expectations have been totally blown out of the water as far as what we've been able to accomplish. Inspired by, partially, my client, Rain Valdez, who was nominated for an Emmy, which really started... I mean, she's been working her butt off for a really long time. So this was such a deserved and amazing acknowledgement for her work. And the fantastic thing is she was nominated for her work in a show that she wrote and she produced and she stars in. And she's just been working her tail off for a really long time. So to be nominated was just such an amazing, amazing moment for her. And she really pulled the whole thing off herself, I have to say.
So great.
Yeah, she was working the whole for your consideration and getting the word out and all this stuff. And she really, this was something that and I'm not going to say single-handedly, because obviously she has a team of people in addition to myself that work with her. And, she has a production company, now more than ever artists. And so there was, it took a village for sure. But as far as spearheading it and just killing the game on that, she really did. And that whole experience was so amazing because obviously when you're nominated, people care more and you get more interest, interview requests, meetings, etc. So there's been a lot, and she's a content creator and she has a lot of stuff going on in addition to just being simply amazing. So we, inspired by her and everything that was going on with her, we started taking some really great meetings. We met with some production companies that are very well established and already creating amazing things. So that really, on the content creator side, that has really been fantastic. I mean, that's inspired a lot. And then separately and jointly, I guess, I have another client named Rachel Lako who co-wrote a feature with Rain, and we found a production company, Faye Pictures, who are on board with that. And that feature film, it's a rom-com with a transgender lead, and Rain Valdez, transgender lead of the film, and Rachel Lako is also in the film with her, co-lead basically. And that is, we're going with that. I mean, we've signed the paperwork. They're taking a research trip to Guam in December to do it. We're doing it, which is very exciting. And then Rachel, in her own right, she has a TV show that is with a production company called Imagine, and they're killing the game, getting meetings, taking meetings, and it's an amazing project. She also has a feature film that we're heading out with that is amazing. So and then I also have a client named Gino Brooks who has a couple shopping agreements with Cedric the Entertainer's production company. Amazing stuff there. And and we have, and then just building on from there, ATN Productions actually launched yesterday, and we have the press releases going out today about ATN Productions starting to work with our first project, which is super exciting. A web series that was brought to me by one of my clients named Sam Ingraffia, and he basically spent a couple days on set because he was shooting with this production. The show is called Panic, It's a web series that's posted on YouTube. We are making it into a full-fledged TV show. It's a web series now, but it's gotten probably 650,000 views. It's comedic, but it's about anxiety. When I first watched it, by the time I was done with the first 10 episodes, I was way more enlightened on the subject, and it helped me. I mean, just by watching what I watched, and I was kind of like, okay, this kind of checks all the boxes that are important to me. Like it's teaching something, it's coming to, it's framed in a comedic way, which I think certain subjects can go into the brain better when it's framed in that way. 2 kids who are just amazing, happy, fun people that have created this thing, blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, the first couple episodes, it was like a crew of 2 and they just made it happen, So that's really exciting. It's funny too, because in the time of COVID, pre-COVID, I decided that we were going to have our first major production for ATN on that side of the world. Once we went into this existence, I was like, what, I need to redo my goals for 2020. What's going on? Of course, like everyone,
everybody took their vision board out of the closet.
I know. So when I first started diving into these materials, I was just like, oh my God, I get to have that goal happen still in 2020. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm really, really excited about that. I'm excited about just putting it into the world, and I'm excited about being the producer, being the person who gets to help on all aspects of something rather than just managing the client or the talent that's involved or that side of things. So, and then again, I have a lot of writers. I have a lot of creators that I'm now able to really dive in and get some significant stuff moving forward for them, inspired by the last 60 days that had just been a complete whirlwind of, oh my God. Oh
my God, what?
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
What?
So, I mean, part of the thing is I'm in Lake Arrowhead right now because I needed to just get some nature and some space and some water that I can look at, because I literally have just been working my friggin' tail off like a crazy person, at least for the last 60 days. But it's all great. I mean, I'm so excited about this. And I had no idea that this area of the company was going to be able to truly launch at a time like this. I mean,
it's crazy.
Yeah. So I think part of that too is just no one knew that this was coming, obviously, when it came. And there's so many things that have happened since it hit. I think a lot of us have, it's been proven that we can do what we do from anywhere, even more than we thought before. And I don't know. I had no reason to think that this area would be going as hardcore as it is. I had no reason to think that was going to happen, but it has happened. It is currently happening. And I think it's going to continue being this way as far as people being, the industry being hungry for content more than before. I mean, I was pounding the pavement before and it was crickets, really.
If we look back to right before the shutdown happened, I mean, the want and the need for content was already so out of control. No one could even keep up. There weren't enough crew people. There weren't enough accountants. There weren't enough producers to get everything done that everyone was demanding. Right. And then there was this vacuum for a minute. Right. And now we've all watched everything on Netflix.
I know.
Do you think it's just going to exponentially grow? Like as soon as it really gets back, for real and churning it through the way it used to, is it just going to stay up there, do you think?
I mean, there may be people who they can rattle something off to that question. It's so hard for me to even have perspective right now because we don't know what even the new normal is going to be. I know some of the things that are going to be part of the new normal, but I don't know what it's going to end up being. It's hard to even, I'm dumbfounded at what's going on right now. So just as far as the amount of activity and I don't know, just a different feeling that I have about the whole area. I don't know. I feel like I feel that the people that I have been talking to and that I've reached out to in the past are actually receptive, and receptive in the way that to me makes sense based on what I'm presenting and what I'm getting back. You know, there's just heightened interest on the majority of the things that I care about and that we're pushing right now. So it's hard to say. I mean, what I'm hoping for ATN and our clients is that we're able to really take advantage of and ride this wave as much as possible, so that where we're at when we're, you know, heading into some kind of new normal is just at a completely different level than when we started. So that's kind of where, you know, where my focus is for the company and everybody that is working with us now.
So I'm here. I want to read between your lines here for a minute, because when you say that suddenly everybody is interested in the things that you are trying to push and to sell, would that be along the lines of underrepresented voices, inclusion, different kinds of stories? Is that if you had a mission for your company, is it along those lines?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, without question. I mean, we have probably, I never even looked at what this percentage was prior to, I don't know, maybe once the Black Lives Matter movement was more at the forefront of all of our lives. But in the marginalized category, we probably have about 60%, 65% of our roster is in that category. And obviously that has perspective to it also. But if I were to give a percentage, that's it. So I just have a very wide range of humans that I'm responsible for in the realm of getting their shit made and done. So yeah. And it's interesting because I definitely am forever changed. I watched 13th right at the beginning, you know, Ava DuVernay's 13th, which, you know, it was really interesting because I was obviously very interested in watching that. I remember I was in my bedroom. I watched it. I was by myself, cried quite a bit. And it was an amazing experience for me just because I allowed myself to just think and feel and be who I was while I was watching that. I was by myself, so there was no possible pause and discuss and judgment and weird, whatever that could be. So I came out of that experience forever changed. And then I've continued in the process of forever changing myself since I watched it. And it was interesting too, because, you know, just like most people I would think who watched that, I didn't learn any of that in school. You know, I mean, that's just kind of the thing that
we've been lied to.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but what was also interesting was I then started having conversations with my white clients, with my Black clients in the mode of, just as an example, I had a conversation with one of my Black clients and I said that. I said, it's amazing to me that we were molded into something by not having the truth available to us. And I didn't learn, you know, and I said that out loud. I said, I didn't learn any of that in school. And she said, neither did I. And that alone blew my mind because wrongly, of course, I just assumed that I don't know, you know, I'm just saying that was a moment of uncovering and unpacking and like, wait a second, you didn't either. Like it added a whole new level to the experience of just, no, it's not just white people that weren't taught, you know, whatever. So, and that whole pursuit has continued to inform my life and my decisions. Our roster was 65% marginalized prior to the BLM movement, obviously, but it like I said, forever changed and continuing to be forever changed. And right at the beginning, I feel like I understood a lot more about it's not anyone's job to educate us, especially Black people, because we're the people who don't know. And we're the people who have had the information available to us in one way or another forever. So it's like, everything was framed differently for me. I was like, cool. So my job to educate myself, it's my job to self-inspect. It's my job to help other white people educate themselves and self-inspect and hold the line on shit. Whereas before, tell you the truth, I had a moment. I mean, I had like right when the George Floyd situation occurred and hit and became something that was huge and was demanding attention, I had a slight moment at the beginning going, wait a second, the whole systemic racism and being brought up, like, hey, I've always loved Black people or something like this. And immediately, I mean, it was just outrageous, but immediately I started having that moment of like, wait, this is a big deal. And it's something that I am not aware of. And it's not okay that I'm not already aware. And I was kind of excited about the fact that I didn't get to say anything about this until I educated myself. I don't know. There was something in that was like, this is something where I don't get to just speak my mind right this second because I don't know what I'm talking about yet. And there was a moment of realization in that was really powerful and really humbling and, just be quiet. Learn what you need to learn before you say anything about a subject that you don't know about. So anyway, I think that I have a huge responsibility, basically, in all of this. I have a huge responsibility of helping people share the stories, tell their, speak their truth in whatever way makes them feel that they've done that, and constantly educate, share what I know. I know that I know a lot more about the transgender community than a lot of the people that I know. And I'm constantly learning more and striving to understand more. But I've had to have I've had conversations with plenty of people about that subject. My parents and I have talked about it. It's something that once you know something, you can't just keep it to yourself anymore. And I'll tell you, through this whole thing has even more brought education. Like, I learned so much during 13th. I will never unlearn that. It's now part of my DNA. It's part of my understanding. And when people are educated about something, you can't take it away. It now belongs to them. So the education part of all of this is just immensely important.
And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Okay. So knowing that it is white people's job to fix racism, I'm so curious. What have you been watching? What have you been reading? What are you eating up in your journey?
Okay. So 13th is what set the stage without question. And then the idea that 13th came out in, I think, 2016 or 17. Anyway, that's a whole other. So that set the stage.
Yeah, we are so late to the party.
Yeah.
So
right. Not just 3 years, but like 150 years, but more recently, just 3 or 4 years.
It's cringy and it's embarrassing, but here we are. So what else?
I will tell you that. So 13th kicked it off for me. I watched When They See Us, which was that was really interesting to me because I could have watched When They See Us before watching 13th, wouldn't have even come close to having the impact that it did. So that was so hard to watch, but so necessary. And to me, that's part of it. Part of this whole thing is like, there is so much that comes down to an individual's ability to confront some evil. There are so many people who just can't. No, they couldn't possibly have done that. That's so disgusting. Oh, that couldn't have possibly happened. But like, it's part of our job as people to, really, it's tough. Do it anyway, because it's reality. And we need to be operating with the reality of the situation. So that was incredibly, that was really tough. I had to, I've been pushing 13th like a crazy person to anyone who will listen, and then re-pushing it again, saying like, did you do it? Oh, you haven't? Cool. Let me know when you do, just like an annoying, whatever. I don't care. Yeah. So, and I had to, on When They See Us, I had to put in some qualifiers to some of my friends and some of my, associates and stuff, saying like, it's tough. It's going to be a tough thing. I was like, I don't know, bawling kind of in the first, maybe 5 minutes. So And then I have to say, Facebook was my friend. I mean, I would dive down amazing rabbit holes on Facebook with just, I found a couple videos of Black women explaining what it's like to be pulled over by a police officer with their child in the car. I shared that like a maniac. And I shared that in a way, I shared that with friends and family members that I knew they weren't thinking the same way that I was thinking at that moment. They hadn't seen 13th. Some of them were more in line with the concept of like, whoa, hey, that happened so long ago. Like just not educated, not into being educated and really fighting things. So like I found some videos.
Like if you just comply, you'll be fine.
Right, exactly. So I found, I was really searching for different levels, I guess, of material that I could share with certain people that I knew weren't necessarily tracking with what the hell was going on at that time. So then it just became something for me that, and also just speaking up. I don't, there's no conversation that I would be a part of now where someone said something off, weird or kind of like, what, I don't let anything go ever now. If someone says something weird or I'm like, wait a second, did you mean, I don't care anymore. It's too important a subject and and we're so far from it even being close to where it needs to be. That's the other thing. There've been a lot of accomplished, a lot of things have been accomplished, but we're still way far from how things need to be. So it's going to be a constant pursuit for a long time. And I got to say, I'm pretty friggin' excited about it. It's heavy and it's hard to do and it's hard to confront and all those things. But, I think with everything that at least I've experienced in my life so far, I just don't care about being careful in regard to that subject anymore. I just don't care. It's too important and it's
urgent.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because it ties into the other thing I was going to ask you about and it's funny because I have noticed this with like manager types is the ability to just tell it like it is, tell your client the truth, don't beat around the bush, don't waste any time being careful, but just being really honest and telling the truth. And it sounds like you do that everywhere in your life. Were you always that person, or is that something that developed? Did you have to lean into that?
I did have to lean into it, but I had to lean into it in a way that I never want anyone to feel less than or feel negatively or feel bad about anything ever. And so because I'm in the position that I am, it's important and was important early on to figure out the best way to communicate and get the point across without the person feeling invalid or less than. So it because that is my job, it became something that I needed to figure out, trial and error in the beginning, figure out the best way to do that. And I think one of the things that I just was a bit of an epiphany moment for me is if the person you're talking to knows that no matter what, you love the shit out of them and you care about them and they know that. I mean, you can care about someone and they don't know it. So it's important for, especially as a manager, like I don't bring anyone on that I'm like, oh, we'll try this out for a few months. And if you do well, we'll keep, that's so far from what I do. So, I can tell you that, and I have to say that thing has obviously become part of my life. If I have something I need to discuss with a friend that may be a little bit, awkward or hard to hear, I'll just reestablish as the first thing I say, and I'm not saying like, hey, I love you, so this is why I'm saying it, like not that, like there's more to it than that.
That's terrible.
Right, exactly. Like, yeah, not framed in that way, but it's just kind of I would say that my clients, for the most part, know that I absolutely give a shit about them. I want them to be happy. I want them to be healthy. I want them to be progressing and living the exact life that they want to live. So, and I establish it right at the beginning. I keep establishing it throughout. I'm I mean, it sounds like kind of a cheesy thing, but I mean it. So it's not cheesy. But when I start working with someone, their hopes and dreams, plans for the future are now my responsibility. And it's still very much their responsibility, not relinquishing, but it truly is that. And I live and breathe that and feel it every moment. So the fact that they know that allows me to have the foundation set that I can communicate to them about something that needs to change or something that needs to become better or feedback that I got, but this is how I'm perceiving that feedback. It's not meaning that you don't know how to act. Like, let's not go to that place because that doesn't make any sense. But it's something that I have definitely had to hone, over time to make sure that those conversations and the feeling that I am emanating continues to be the reality of the clients that I have. Because it is true. I mean, I feel like I've generally said what I think, as a human being. I was brought up that way. But in order to really be able to do this job the way that I want to do it, I've definitely had to spend some good time figuring it all out, figuring out the best way to be that person and be able to communicate what I need to communicate in a way that's it will be received and absorbed and not putting people on the defensive and, all those things. And that has to do with this whole, now I'll go back a little bit, but in talking about the BLM movement and systemic racism and all of that stuff, it's very similar. You can't just immediately put someone on the defensive because then you're not talking to the person anymore. You're talking to all the defense mechanisms that kick in because they feel put on the spot or, and that doesn't mean be nice and sweet and just like, oh, okay, well, if you don't get it, but but
you can't start with, first of all, you're a racist. Second of all, let me give you some
right,
feedback.
Exactly. So, but it's an interesting thing to be present with the fact that you need to be able to navigate that, still get your point across, and allow someone the space to have their own realizations if they're going to have those realizations. And to me, that is exactly why 13th is the best thing ever to kick that into gear. For people who haven't seen 13th, that's what I'm saying. Like if you sit with 13th and you absorb that as just the individual human being that you are without judgment, just get the information. You can't help but be a better human being after that. I mean, and then you don't have to even deal with feeling defensive when you have a conversation with someone who may have a different perspective than you. Save yourself the defense mechanisms and just watch that. And then you'll be on a relatively good plane of existence with the other people who've seen it already and the other people who've known about it the whole friggin' time.
I got to tell you, you are so clear and thoughtful about what you're about and what you're doing. It gives me hope for Hollywood as an institution.
Oh my God. Thank you.
I just want to give you that.
Thank
feedback.
you so much. That's amazing.
I think it's great. And it's so delicious because you hear people outside of Los Angeles or New York who Hollywood is this thing, for good and for bad. And some people just think it's this evil monster doing no good. And then you really talk to the people who are inside doing the work with this kind of vision and clarity and intent. And it really is, I think, hope for the civilization.
Oh my gosh.
Not to put too much pressure on you.
No, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. That's wonderful.
Okay, so what is next for you? I've kept you a long time.
No, well, I'm cool. Here's the other thing. I want to we spoke about this. We touched on this before we started the actual, just in our little get to know you moments, that I just want to mention a couple of my other clients as far as what they have going on right now that is in the exciting level of things. So it's funny because this client that I want to just bring up real quick, the story is cool. It comes from actually my music business side of my life. So there's a friend of mine who I've had for probably early 90s. So yeah, early 90s. We'll just say that. Long time. So my band went in the studio with him. and we recorded some music. He was, producer. He is a producer. His instrument of choice is the bass. And he was involved in the Commitment soundtrack. Some people will be like, what's that? But, we know what that is. Okay.
We ladies of a certain age,
exactly.
We know what the commitments are.
So basically, we've stayed in touch, and we've stayed in touch on Facebook, just like, oh, hey, cute. Oh, like that, whatever. And probably about 2 years ago, he posted on his Facebook page a picture of his son. And he said, my son has decided that he is an actor, and that's what he's going for. And here's his first headshot. And it was really cute and fun. And immediately I saw the headshot and I was like, oh my gosh. So I reached out to my friend, Paul Bushnell, about his son, Charlie Bushnell. And I said, let's have a meeting. If nothing else, I've been in this business. I can answer questions or whatever we want to do. So we had a meeting. Long story short, love this kid, Charlie, excited to be working with my friend from a zillion years ago. So he's the touring bass player for Tim McGraw and Faith Hill. So that's his day job. Obviously not in the time of COVID, but that's his day job. So he's still rocking in the world of music and awesomeness and producing stuff, and is prolifically amazing and all of that. So met with Charlie and the parents, Nicole and Paul, decided to start working with Charlie. He had seen Stranger Things and just was like, that's what I'm doing. That looks fun. I can do it. I'm into it. Let's do it. So we started working together. I got him an agent. Relatively soon thereafter, he auditioned for Diary of a Future President, which is CBS Disney Plus. He booked it. So he's a series regular on that show. It was his literally, I know that? Charlie Bushnell does that. That's who does that. So what's crazy is at one point I was asked for his resume, and I'm like, you don't need his resume, because before this, it was a PSA, and who cares? This is it.
There's nothing on it.
He's arrived.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so they're going back. They're going to start shooting the second season. His whole arc is amazing. And he's just fantastic. He's a fantastic kid. It's a fantastic family. I'm so grateful that I get to work with them. And then it's my friend from the music business. And and what's incredible about this too is my offices are at crossroads of the world, Sunset and Las Palmas. And that is where my band recorded those songs with Paul Bushnell producing. So it's like, oh
my God, you've got those circles.
I know. And then obviously I have a lot of clients, and a lot of my clients are doing incredible things. So exciting. That's kind of,
yeah. Great. Okay. What is your advice for women coming up behind you?
Oh my gosh. I got to say, it's so, okay. What I'm about to say is very interesting, because I think I've heard this advice from other women that at that point they were talking to me, because I was the woman coming up behind. And there's so much to be said for just staying true to yourself, your integrity. Don't let things go that suck. Don't be okay to just be the person in the group of people that you're talking about something, and something is like, wait, that's not right, or that doesn't feel good. Like, I have a friend, it's really funny. I have a friend, and when we were so young, we were like 20 or something like this. And I remember I had a little outburst that was a negative thing about a mutual friend of ours. And this friend of mine said, hey, she's not here right now. Don't say anything shitty about her when she's not here. And it's always stuck with me. It's always something that I've looked back and go, God, she's right. And she had the balls to say that to me, her really good friend, in front of other people who are here, about someone who wasn't here. And I always think about that. I always think about that moment for me where I was called out for being a jerk about a friend, and someone who I considered a friend too, not just, so.
Yeah, but you can trust her.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many lessons learned in that moment. For me, just, I'm not a jerk. Yeah. I want to be that person too. Like, that set a tone for me. Like, that worked. Like, that whole thing worked on me, for her, etc. And there's just something beautiful about knowing what's right for you, being about it 24/7. And But all of this also comes down to you have to have empathy, you have to have kindness, you have to have a sense of not wanting anyone to feel less than about anything ever. And it becomes our job as me helping people tell these stories and me being a part of, like, I know that I am a part of many different things that can change things for the better. And there's a responsibility that goes along with that. There is the love and kindness factor that always has to be present, or you're not going to get done what you want to get done. And I don't know. I mean, part of it too is people in positions of power in one way or another. It's your job to stay happy and upbeat and allow other people to experience that from you. And hopefully you can infect them with some happiness and more of a, I mean, I have some of my clients, they say, I always call you when I'm feeling shitty because you're always the one who goes immediately to the silver lining. What can we find in this that'll help? What can we make better? What can we fix? And I think that especially when you're a representative of someone, you are in a position where you can affect change and you can instill things in people. It becomes part of the job too. Like I will always be that person. And it's part of my job, but it's also who I am. And I think it's important to keep that perspective too for all reps. This is a tough business that we have all decided to put every ounce of our lives into. So it's like, and we can affect change just from our position. So it's kind of covers all the bases. And I do feel super lucky that I get to do what I do on a daily basis. But, that's always part of that is that obviously I've worked my friggin' butt off to get here. So I'm grateful. But
that's right. Own
it. Yeah, exactly.
How can people find you?
The best way to find me is, we're ATN Empire. So is our Instagram. So we're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Actors that are interested in sending us stuff. It's submissions, plural, at ATN. So all together now, entertainment.com. So ATNentertainment.com and submissions at. So that way, I'm on Facebook. I'm around. I'm not, my stuff's not private or any of that stuff. So I'm available for people. I'm around. Yeah. So yeah, that's how people can find me. Oh yeah. So my Instagram is ATN Empire. That's our Instagram.
Awesome. And we'll link to all the stuff too. Thank you so much. This was so good to talk to you.
You too. And again, I really appreciate this.
You've been listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Jennifer DaRe for sharing her story. And special thanks to Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on your favorite podcast provider and leave a review. And of course, on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out in letters, for added features, bios of our guests, and the merch. You can also follow us on all the social media platforms. Thanks for listening. See you next time.